Sorry about that, guys. I have a bit of a rebellious gut right now. What's going on, Chad? Happy Tuesday. I hope everyone's having a lovely day out there today. Oh, boy. Welcome to another Taco Tuesday. I did the intro wrong. It's fine. No, I'm looking for something. What am I looking for? Bip, bip. Yeah, that's it. Ah, there we go. What's going on, chat? How we doing? Hello, Sanoot. Hello, Let's Go. Hello, Frank Cap, Shiru, Divine, Joshua, and Jonathan. The Demonman, Jacob, Lamented Guide, hello, hello. Brian, what's up, TC, Bob Beauregard, how we doing? Bookworm had bacon and eggs for breakfast. Well, I think my meal prep has, really? I think my meal prep has turned bad. Oh boy, oh boy. But what's going on, Chad? How we doing? Hope everyone's having a lovely day out there today. It is the last day of February. Thank God. And I have updates, chat. I have updates for you based on certain things. Going in real quick. I heard back from the dealership. I owe them another $150. I got the $500 back, but I owe them $150 for the work I agreed to, so I had to pay that. So in the past 2 days, I had $527 in unexpected expenses. So I'm just in here. Well, the tax one was kind of expected. So, okay. $256 in unexpected expenses. I know that doesn't math. 250, 150, 150, 550. Whatever. We're squabbling over dollars. But I just, okay, I got the call. I was like, okay, fine. Send me.
Don't do that.
Tell me what to do. I was like, okay, send me a picture of the bill and I will pay, because I put $200 down. I was like, okay, send me a picture of the bill and I will pay the outstanding balance of the services that I required. So they said, okay, they sent me a picture of the bill. They said, okay, so I owe you $150. And they were just like, yeah. Okay, well, it's like $157. So I was like, okay, I'll pay that. And that's it. That's done. I sent them the payment and I was on the phone with them and I said, hey, you realize I am never coming to you for another thing again, right? Like I've been a loyal customer here for years and I will never be coming to you for another thing because of how much of a hassle this was. And they were just like, okay. Like, I don't know what I expect them to say, but you'd think they'd try to do something to keep my business. But it's just like, all right, fine, whatever. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. It sucks to suck. Oh well, fuck them. Fuck them. I don't feel bad. My cooking sucks also. No, my cooking is good. It was a delicious meal prep, but I don't think it's supposed to last for 6 days in the fridge, 5 days in the fridge. But yeah, I was just like, all right, cool. Fuck you guys. Fuck all of you. Eat shit. Then I had to pay my tax guy, and he cuts me a deal since I've been seeing him for 15 years. He normally charges like $500, but he got me for $250. So I'm like, all right, cool. And then I had a shelf malfunction on. That would be a no-no on that front in 2 or 3 days max. Yeah. Yeah, the chicken seems to hold a little bit better than the beef, though. The chicken seems to hold out for about 4 days. But, my taxes were $300. My guy cuts me a deal. He called me a pain in the ass. I've been seeing this dude for 15 years, but there was another $150. Then I had a shelf malfunction at the studio, and I had to run to Home Depot and drop $150 on a shelf. Like, $125. I'm like, son of a bitch. It's been a day in Syntopolis, let me tell you. Let me tell you. Wait a week, then eat all of it in one sitting. Be a man. Fuck nut for the 2. What does this do? Let me replay that. I like that one.
Don't do that.
Short, sweet, and to the point. Don't do that. I am a fan of that one. I do like that one. Normally it's 400 plus for a simple file. I most certainly do not have a simple file. I know he's cutting me a deal. He's a good dude. I appreciate what he does and how good he does.
Don't do that.
Oh, fuck, I have cap lock on. Why do I have cap lock on? Don't do that. Okay. No. Yes. Save. Oh, why did I do this? Why do I not think ahead? We have 122 people watching and 68 like. Guys, smash that like button. Smash like. Smash like. This is your president speaking, John Henry Sneeden. I am addressing the stream to inform you that the ratio is less than adequate. That is all. Thank you very much. Did you get a handy with that purchase? It doesn't sound right. No, I have to get one of those weight-bearing rack shelves, not just like a bookshelf. But yeah, it is what it is. I got a 6-tier weight-bearing rack. But anyway, guys, anyway, sorry that we started late. Like I said, I have some rebellious guts going on right now. Really not feeling super hot, but I'm here. I'm ready to do the show, and I'm ready to put on a great show for you guys. So please smash the like button. Please share it out on all your social media if you feel so inclined. Please do hit up the Streamlabs. I today put up I think 6 new donations at least. I got the $2, the $5, 56 cents, 556. I just saw these and I thought they were fantastic. I put one up really high at $4.99 because I call it the counterpart to Polly's manliest donation ever, and I'm really happy with it. It's so stupid. But Shelley called it 12-year-old boy humor, but I love it. And yes, that one does count to the McKinley. But there's a whole fucking shitload of new donations. I have forgotten what most of them are except the ones I put up today. So if you feel so inclined, please do consider unlocking a couple of the question marks down below. But let's get into the tuck, guys. Let's get to.
It's a question that entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy has spent a great deal of time thinking about through 2 books, as well as in his latest venture, which he joins us tonight to tell us about. Vivek, thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you, Tucker.
So it does seem like Don Lemon, just a cable host, but this is a perfect illustration.
I don't know if stress shits are a thing, but I feel like that's what I could be having right now.
Of where identity politics wind up when you stray from universal principles that bind us all under the same rules.
Exactly. I mean, we are in the middle of this national identity crisis, Tucker, where we have celebrated our diversity and our differences for so long that we forgot all of the ways we're really just the same as Americans, bound by a common set of ideals that set this nation into motion 250 years ago.
God damn.
And that's why I'm proud to say tonight that I am running for United States president to revive those ideals in this country, those basic rules of the road. Meritocracy, the idea that you get ahead in this country, not on the color of your skin, but on the content of your character. The idea that you are allowed to speak freely, yes, to be wrong sometimes, as long as your neighbor gets the same courtesy in return. The idea that the people who we elect to run the government, by the way, are the people who actually run the government. Basic rules of the road. These are the things that bind us together. You and I have different shades of melanin. You know what I say? So what? That's not beautiful. That is not our strength. Our diversity is meaningless if there's nothing greater that binds us together across that diversity.
That's pretty on point.
And the reason that I'm running for president is to revive those ideals. And I believe deep in my bones they still exist, that most Americans still believe in them, but we need to rediscover that. And the only way we can do it is by start talking openly again.
So I'm not going to ask you any political questions because given my calls in the midterms, I don't understand American politics. So I'm not going to ask you what you do in Iowa or whatever. Other people can do that.
If I had 500, I'd give it. It's not 500. It's $4.99.
Give us the bullet points of what you're going to tell audiences as you embark from here on this campaign.
I think we need to put merit back into America in every sphere of our lives. I mean, merit.
You have the right to remain silent.
I choose to waive that right.
I don't get why this isn't hot yet. Because I just put it in there today. Thank you, fucknut.
Into this country. Let's start with that, okay? I think more people like my parents can be a good thing for this country. But people whose first act of entering this country as a law-breaking one, we should say a hard no to that. Not just who gets in, but also who gets ahead. Decimating affirmative action. It has been a national cancer. One of my top priorities will be to end affirmative action in every sphere of American life. And it's not just meritocracy and who gets ahead.
Ending affirmative action.
Fucknut lol. I'm glad you like it. I love when people hit one of the new ones and they like them. That makes me feel so good.
Yes.
I mean, our whole government is based on that idea.
Well, the funny thing, Tucker, is this would be an easy thing for a president to do. Lyndon Johnson issued an executive order that requires anyone who does business with the U.S. government, that covers over 20% of the U.S. workforce, to adopt race-based quota systems. And
race-based quota systems are just completely untenable. They just are.
Any Republican president since Lyndon Johnson could have taken a pen and crossed that out. We haven't done it yet. I think that's the kind of courage we're going to need to muster, to go after these sacred cows, from woke religion in the form of affirmative action to this new climate religion, which is completely shackling the American economy and culture. We need to take the most sacred cows of these alternative secular religions, and I'm sorry to say this, take them to the slaughterhouse, because that's what it's going to take for this national revival, where we stop apologizing for what it means to be American. I'm all for putting America first, but in order to put America first, we have to first rediscover what America is. And to me, those are these basic rules.
That sounds like a cheap Make America Great Again, but yeah, okay.
Rules of the road that set this nation into motion, from meritocracy to free speech to self-governance over aristocracy. The people who we elect, actually make them run the government rather than this cancerous federal bureaucracy. That's going to be the heart of my message. And I'll tell you this. We don't have an option anymore, okay? We face these external threats, like the rise of China, which I think has got to be our top foreign policy threat that we've got to respond to, not pointless.
Yeah, just another guy. That's a good point. That's a good point.
Wars somewhere else. That's going to require some sacrifice. It's going to require a declaration of independence from China, complete decoupling. And that's not going to be easy. It's going to require some inconvenience. Buying cheap stuff for that many years, you know what? We got addicted to it. That's going to require some sacrifice. But I think we can make those sacrifices if we know what we are sacrificing for. And that's what I want to see the GOP do. Answer the question of what it means to be an American today. If we give an answer to that question, we dilute this woke agenda and these secular religions to irrelevance. Yes, I've been complaining about them for the last 3 years. Yes, there's a role for identifying the problem. But if we want to deliver a solution, we're going to need to rediscover that national identity that we all share. And if we do that,
oh, this guy. Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
I still think, honest, deep in my bones, that our best days, not in some cheesy politician kind of way, but actually, truly, I think our best days can be ahead of us. But it's going to take that revival to make it happen.
I hope you'll come back often, because you are one of the great talkers we've ever had. But very quickly, you identified China as the primary concern of American foreign policy. You don't think it's the war in Eastern Europe?
Absolutely correct. And
does this guy even have a chance? No.
I think that, look, foreign policy is all about prioritization. Okay, we got to wake up to the fact that China is violating our sovereignty, and the reason, if that had been a Russian spy balloon, we'd have shot it down instantly and ratcheted up sanctions. Why didn't we do that for China? The answer is simple. We depend on them for our modern way of life.
Totally
okay,
right.
This economic codependent relationship has to end, and the only other priority I'd add is actually, if you're going to use the military for something, use it to decimate the cartels south of the border in a failed narco state that's now actually killing people on American soil with fentanyl. That's what a good use of a military looks like, is actually protecting American soil and American interests, not a pointless war somewhere else. And I think that the heart of this goes to reviving that national identity. What does it mean to be American? Then you know what you need to defend.
Oh, Fake Gamer Cat. I made a couple of new donations today. Well, not today, but in this last update, and I thought of you. They're both Witcher based. One is 75 and the other is 120, I believe.
And that's where our domestic policy vision and this cultural vision is inextricably linked. It's tied to our foreign policy vision, too. And that's why I'm running for president, because I think that needs to be at the top of the GOP's agenda. I think it needs to be at the top of this country's agenda. and I'm running for president to make it happen.
That is so far from the current agenda that it'll be fascinating to see you wade into this race, and we appreciate your announcing tonight here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Subscribe. Good evening.
One day when the critters come,
We'll eat till our bellies are full. I can't spare much, but here's a little bit, Sin. Thanks.
Don't do that.
Okay. Thank you very much, Boosted. I really appreciate that. Couldn't think of a comment, so here, I have $2, you cheap slut. Sorry. Thank you, Jacob. I am a cheap slut. And thank you so much, Boosted. I really appreciate it, man.
Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. Well, it looks like Don Lemon's long television career is finally over. Mr. Lemon has been sentenced by the High Court of Wokeness to a term in the HR gulag. He'll undergo a procedure called sensitivity training, which is always the first step to being disappeared, or in his case, to doing late-night infomercials on BET. Say goodbye to Don Lemon. His colleague...
Yeah, he done. He done. He fucked up. Don Lemon fucked up bad. You cannot, I don't care what you think, you cannot get on television and tell a woman you are past your prime. Oh boy, did he fuck up. What did he expect? What an asshole.
At CNN are adamant they don't want him back ever on moral grounds. So that's it. And we'll admit to feeling some sadness at this news.
Did you send off my package? Yes, it got out today. So, day or two. Well, I dropped it off today. I don't know if that will, I don't know if it'll count as today. But yeah, no, it should be en route.
The prospect of cable without Don Lemon isn't quite as bright as we'd imagined. As the tide of dullness and uniformity sweeps over American culture, as everything becomes the Apple Store, there was a certain joy in watching his unpredictable low IQ zaniness. Let's say you're a conventional news anchor working for a conventional news-based news network, and a Malaysian air flight disappeared over the Pacific. You would immediately think hijacking or mechanical failure. Not Don Lemon. Only he had the childlike creativity to imagine the plane had been swallowed by a black hole.
Sometimes it happens.
In case you've forgotten that legendary moment.
I appreciate you, just another guy. So that, okay, hold on. I gotta run the mental mathematics in my head. With that one gone, we are down. Where the fuck are they? They must be. No, they can't be on the table. We're down to, I believe, 4. We're down to, I believe, 5 McKinley Club packages and 1 single premium comma package left. And along with that premium comma package, we have 2 new Pinky songs, so we can unlock one of them. Drunkle in the chat. Hello, Drunkle.
What if it was hijacking or terrorism or mechanical failure or pilot error, but what if it was something fully that we don't really understand? A lot of people have been asking about that, about black holes and on and on and on. They're also referencing the Twilight Zone, which has a very similar plot. That's what people are saying. I know it's preposterous, but is it preposterous, you think?
Is it preposterous?
Yeah. If a black hole appeared above Earth within flight height, we'd all be dead. Don't worry. All right, just another guy. I would appreciate it, man. You don't have to, under no obligations, but I would appreciate it.
Mock that clip if you will, but there was a kind of demented genius on display there, and we appreciated it. Now it's over. But the story of Don Lemon is...
And if you're going to do it, I would just like to point out the $4.99 one down below, because it's a beautiful riff off of Polly's manliest man, whatever he calls it.
More than about one man's dead career. It is, in fact, a fascinating tale that illustrates the growing darkness of American liberalism, something that affects all of us. Whatever else he was, Don Lemon was no ideologue. He'd never met a fixed belief. Don Lemon was a careerist. He was a man who rose in television by parroting the instructions of his bosses.
Do what you're told. The peak of epic manliness. This is going to be the... No, it's not the peak. It's not... The song of epic manliness. That's what it is.
receive their instructions from the Democratic Party. And in that way, Don Lemon is the perfect measure of how the nation is changing and where it's going. During the Obama years, when we were all...
The riff of epic manliness? I don't know. If it gets played, I'm going to need some help with the chat to name it, because there's the there, but I don't know what to call it. And it does count as a McKinley, and if we fill up the bar, we'll get a song.
All told, the country might...
That's just going to be the going forward rule till I decide otherwise. No matter what the goal is, whether it's 1,000 or 500, you fill up the bar, you get a song.
Finally move past our divisive racial history. Don Lemon reflected the current trend. At one point, he even attempted one of those authentic conversations about race we were always being encouraged to have. Here it is.
Or get a horse bean.
Black people, if you really want to fix the...
Oh, wait. I got something for this. Hold on. Soundpad, where are you? Soundpad, help. Soundpad, help. Why aren't you open? Why do I not have you open before I launch this stream? Oh, my God. I'm going to have to pull this back and play it so it goes through.
Here it is.
Black people
are so poor and they are so black.
Ha.
If you really want to fix the problem, here's just 5 things that you should think about doing. Here's number 5, pull up your pants. Some people, a lot of them black, gave me flack for saying that recently on the Wendy Williams show. I hosted a special on the N-word, suggesting that black people stop using it, and that entertainers stop deluding yourselves or themselves.
Jesus Christ, he looks like he aged 30 years in the past 10.
And others, that you're somehow taking the word back. Now, number 3. Respect where you live.
Well, this shouldn't be just a black people thing. This should be a human thing. Don't shit where you eat.
Start small by not dropping trash, littering in your own communities. Number 2, finish school. You want to break the cycle of poverty? Stop telling kids they're acting white because they go to school or they speak proper English. And number 1, and probably the most important, just because you can have a baby, it doesn't mean you should.
I mean, all these are accurate. He's not wrong.
So stop littering, show respect, go to school, because the rules apply to everybody no matter what they look like. It's impossible to imagine the Don Lemon of today. It's impossible to imagine anyone of today speaking like that because times have so completely changed. And it was the arrival of Donald Trump that upended the rules. During the Trump era, Don Lemon's bosses instructed him to shift gears radically and attack middle-class white Americans as the problem, because middle-class white Americans were Donald Trump's electoral base. That was the point of that. So Don Lemon dutifully did. Watch.
I think you're letting them off easy. I don't believe that it's just because they think Joe Biden would be worse. I think it's because they like it. They like the racism. They like the misogyny.
Joe Biden turned out to be so unequivocally worse, it's not even funny. We might have to skip ahead to this China stuff and just kind of circle back to this. In fact, I think that's exactly what we're going to do. I think that is exactly what. We're going to go through and circle back.
Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. Happy Monday. So how would you define the Biden administration? Well, really the
fail. How would you, chat, in one word, how would you describe the Biden administration while you smash that like button and share it out? That ratio is terrible.
hallmark has been an almost otherworldly disconnection from the actual affairs of the United States. If it's really happening in this country, the Biden administration will pretend it's not. In fact, White House officials seem to have no idea what's going on in our country and no interest in learning about it. The week a train derailment poisoned an entire town in Ohio, the transportation secretary, the man in charge of preventing train derailments, held a press conference attacking white construction workers because they're the problem. It's 1952. Our 80-year-old president, meanwhile, 80 years old, he seems convinced it's 1915 and we're all living in rural Alabama, burning crosses in the front yards of terrified sharecroppers to amuse ourselves. We don't have TV. Biden gave a speech the other day in 2023 to denounce lynching, as if lynching is still happening in the United States. It all seems a little delusional. So it was with genuine relief that we saw today one of Biden's top cabinet officials, Janet Yellen, who runs the Treasury Department, sign off her Twitter account, finally leave Washington, and meet with actual flesh and blood human beings who are suffering. And not only did she meet with them to prove her sincerity, Janet Yellen brought with her a check for $1 billion. And we'll admit, partisanship aside, we were happy to see that. Finally, someone in the Biden administration who actually cares, who's getting on an airplane to show concern. That's the good news. The bad news is Janet Yellen was not in East Palestine. She was
Ukraine.
in Ukraine. Watch.
Oh my God.
And today I'm proud to announce the transfer of an additional amount of over $1.2 billion. That's the first tranche of about $10 billion.
1.2 trillion. I'm over here going, man, I hope we can at least get halfway to goal in tonight's show. I am so financially fucked, it's not even funny. And she's like, oh yeah, 1.2 trillion. We'll take your goal and add 6 zeros to it.
$1 billion in direct budget support that the
Oh, no, sorry, 10 billion. We'll add 9 zeros to it. My bad.
United States will provide in the coming months.
We love you so much that we will give you whatever you want. Anything. A new bicycle, a puppy, a pony, it's yours. We love you. Billions more for Ukraine. Your tax dollars. But that money's not going to be going to the newly poisoned communities of eastern Ohio. Who cares about them? It's not going to be earmarked for the hundreds of thousands of American families who have lost loved ones to the opioid epidemic, an epidemic that was created by Democratic donors at Purdue Pharma. No, that money's going to Zelensky and his wife in Kiev. And that money will complement the more than $100 billion.
The real answer is a massive tax strike. Nobody would do it. Just nobody would do it.
In tax dollars they've already received from the U.S. Treasury. And you've got to think as they watch this tonight, assuming there's still TV reception in East Palestine, the people who are stuck there are kicking themselves. If only they had paid Joe Biden's crackhead son $80 grand a month for a no-show job, Janet Yellen might be visiting them today. It seemed like a lot of money at the time, but that turned out to be the best investment those Ukrainian oligarchs ever made. It was like buying Google stock 20 years ago. Talk about a jackpot.
Yeah.
And by the way, nobody understands the principles of political venture capitalism better than, ironically, the communist Chinese government does. They paid Hunter Biden too. And this weekend we learned a little bit about what they got in return. The Wall Street Journal reported that the Biden administration has finally concluded that, yes, COVID was not naturally occurring.
Oh, his ear thing just fell out. Oh no, we have to discard everything he says. But yeah, why is that even remotely shocking? Is anybody remotely shocked by this?
Didn't emerge organically from a pangolin, whatever that is, at the wet market, whatever that is. No, the virus came from a Chinese military lab where it was created. That's the determination.
As a bioweapon, again, funded by us.
Of the Department of Energy based on new intelligence that, of course, everyone already had. Now, we learned this, interestingly, from a newspaper. We did not learn it directly from the Biden administration because Joe Biden hasn't said a word about it. And that's a little odd. 1 million Americans, they tell us, died of COVID.
Does anybody buy that?
Close to 7 million died globally, so it's inherently a big story. Now, it is true that the origin of COVID is not directly related to anti-trans racism, so it's not unnatural for Joe Biden. He doesn't have his talking points already written. But it might still make for a good topic for, say, a primetime address to the nation. He might mention it to us. He might answer a few other questions while he's at it. For example, is Joe Biden still sending money to China for biotech research? The administration was actually doing that, sending cash to that same Wuhan lab as recently as last year. Are they still doing that? And bigger picture, have their views on China changed now they know that China?
Of course not. Literally no. No. And they're not going to change. They're not going to change. Did you hear Putin recently said a speech bashing the American government? Sad part is, literally everything he said was true. I did not see it, but I appreciate the buck, man. Thank you.
China.
And I'm going to check that ratio too. We must be shadow banned tonight because we got low view numbers, 156. Jesus Christ, fuck YouTube. Guys, smash that like button, share it out, and if you feel so inclined, unlock a question mark down below, or send $1, whatever. It's all appreciated. I am fucked.
Is responsible for the deaths of almost 7 million people. Now that we know China unleashed COVID on the world, intentionally or not, and then lied about it for sure, and then hid life-saving genetic information about the virus from the scientists who are trying to respond to COVID. Now we know all of that. Does Joe Biden still consider Vladimir Putin, he's so bad, the greatest threat to world peace and stability? It does seem like this story could overturn some of our previous assumptions. Well, Joe Biden's National Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan, went on CNN yesterday to answer precisely none of these questions. Instead, he told us, we're still not sure where it came from. Watch this.
Did the coronavirus pandemic start in a lab?
What do you mean, just another guy?
Is that what you believe now?
Well, Dana, there is a variety of views in the intelligence community. Some elements of the intelligence community have reached conclusions on one side, some on the other. A number of them have said they
Who?
just don't have enough information to be sure. And if we gain any further insider information, we will share it with Congress and we will share it with the American people. But right now, there is not a definitive answer that has emerged from the intelligence community on this question.
We just can't say for sure where COVID came from. There's no consensus. We're still debating it. Well, there's never a consensus in Washington about anything, particularly not with the intel agencies. They're lying. We know perfectly well where COVID came from. We've known this for years. In fact, one of the very first things we knew about COVID was that it was an engineered virus that escaped somehow, intentionally or not, from a Chinese military biolab in Wuhan. It was in early March of 2020, 3 full years ago, at the very beginning, that we did a long open on this show about the Chinese research paper whose authors later disappeared. Now, these Chinese scientific researchers scolded the Chinese government for the lax safety standards that they said allowed COVID to escape and infect the world. This was 3 years ago. Watch this. In fact, the outbreak may have begun not in a public meat market, but in a poorly run Chinese laboratory. Now, that's not our theory. Anyone who raises that theory on American television is attacked as a conspiracy monger. But this is a theory from a now censored Chinese paper. A draft paper posted in mid-February, scientists at the South China University of Technology suggested that the coronavirus outbreak began at the Wuhan Center for Disease Control, where an animal may have infected a researcher who then spread the disease outside the facility.
I think it was intentional. That's just me, though.
The paper is explicit about this. We're going to quote it. The killer coronavirus probably originated from a laboratory in Wuhan, end quote. So it's not like we did a lot of hard-hitting reporting with our Chinese-speaking staff. That paper was in English on the internet, and anyone who was interested could have found it. We were just interested. That's why we found it. And then we found someone who was there. We found a Chinese physician, a scientific researcher who worked for the Chinese government, who was in and around Wuhan when COVID emerged from that lab. Her name is Li Mingyan, and we did a bunch of interviews with her. Here's one.
From my first report, I can present the solid scientific evidence
Godspeed, little buddy. Godspeed. Fastonia coming in with the $22.99 unlocked. Love you, Sin. No more sneezing glitter homo. I will sneeze whatever glitter I want. Thank you, Fastonia, to the renormed Otter Space Dance Party. Yeah, that one was pretty high before. I try to bring a lot down. OTT. I try to bring a lot of the higher ones down so people could hit them and enjoy them more. Thank you. Godspeed, little buddy.
to our audience that this virus, COVID-19 SARS-CoV-2 virus, actually is not from nature. I work with the top coronavirologists in the world. So together with my experience, I can tell you, this is created in the lab.
Oh, and I made a I made a little riff off of Drunkle's $150 Battle of the Bastards donation. I don't remember what this one is. That one's good. This one? Oh my god, the 3323 you guys will fucking love. Or Dead, D-E-A-D.
This is from that template owned by China military. And also it is spread to the world to make such damage.
To make such damage, do you believe the Chinese government released this intentionally, on purpose? Did they do this?
Yes, of course, it's intentionally.
Wow.
Duh and or hello.
Oh, no, we thought that was a story. So there was a physician.
China is asshole.
That's true. That's just a fact. Good evening, Sin. This seems very appropriate right now. Thank you, God Emperor Dingle. Much appreciated.
Who
it is appropriate.
Worked on coronaviruses for the Chinese military, who was in Wuhan, telling us in September of 2020 that the Chinese government did this intentionally to wreck the West, to kill people and destroy the economies of its rivals here in the West. Now, if you're a middle-class Christian American, it's hard to imagine that level of malice existing anywhere in the world. You just would never consider doing something like that. But with the Chinese, are they serious enough? Yeah, probably. But instead of following up on that, people attacked the woman you just saw, really attacked her, and then attacked us for giving her airtime. Pants on fire, you're lying, said the, quote, fact checkers. But she wasn't lying. And Tony Fauci and many others in the U.S. government knew that she wasn't lying. In fact, they knew the truth about where COVID came from, long before the rest of us had even heard the term COVID. In mid-November of 2019, a friendly Asian government, we have learned, sent a cable to American officials warning that there was evidence or something strange going on in Wuhan, and it looked like a dangerous leak from a biolab.
What is the conspiracy theorists were right jar looking at right now? How's that looking? How full is that?
They knew that. The origins of COVID were never a secret. The real story, the great outrage of this story, is that the people who knew or should have known the truth lied about the truth. Why? To hide the Chinese government's role in mass murder, the killing of almost 7 million people and the destruction of the American economy. That's the interesting part, looking back 3 years later. From the beginning of the outbreak, the American media, as one, took the side of the Chinese government in this new propaganda war over COVID. And Trump, once again, to his credit, knew. He knew exactly where this came from. He didn't say so directly, he should have, but instead he alluded to it. He called COVID the China virus. And when he did that, he was over the target, so the Chinese government attacked him. They've learned a thing or two from watching American politics as a, quote, racist. One Chinese news outlet tweeted this, quote, racism is not the right tool to cover your own incompetence. Shut up, racist! They saw it working in America. We're going to try that. And it worked. And then the entire American press corps covered for...
At least half, but they're going to keep needing a bigger jar. Cash it in, man. If I could, I would. I'm so fucking poor.
The Chinese government. People like David Frum at The Atlantic. Oh, he's so smart. David Frum immediately parroted that slur from the Chinese government. You have to ask yourself, was David Frum taking money from Beijing to repeat their lies? We can't.
Yes. The answer is yes.
Can't confirm that, but he might as well have been taking money from Beijing. And it wasn't just David Frum. NBC News called the phrase Chinese virus, quote, both inaccurate and harmful in tying racist associations between the virus and those from China. Of course, the virus was from China. It was from a Chinese military biolab, and it may have been released on purpose.
Funded by us.
To kill people. It didn't matter. No one asked a single question. Joe Biden and his lackeys in the media all repeated the talking point. Watch this.
But neither should we panic or fall back on xenophobia. Labeling COVID-19 a foreign virus does not displace accountability.
The president referred to the coronavirus.
It does not displace accountability. What accountability? What accountability?
As a, quote, foreign virus. And I think it's going to it's going to come across to.
It is a foreign virus. What does that even mean?
a lot of Americans as smacking of xenophobia.
The administration's labeling of this virus as foreign is undoubtedly playing into the rising xenophobia about it. Trump isn't cautioning us to check our racism, but is rather stoking xenophobic sentiment.
The president says it's a foreign virus, as if this was launched on us like an attack.
Can we just throw CNN into the China yeet pot? Actually, you know what? Hold on. I'm just going to label everything I'm mad at in the donation goal. I'm just going to label everything I am angry with. Hold on. Donation goal. Where are we at? 71. Copy. End. Hold on. We're going to add a lot in here. Eat China. IRS. Dealership. No, it's the fucking what else can I be angry with? Lil Z. Everything I am angry with right now. Well, not saying that bang is 0. There we go. Just throw it all in one thing.
We know what that's about. That's about him playing xenophobia. Works with his base.
Why do you keep calling this the Chinese virus? Why do you keep using this? A lot of people say it's racist.
It's not racist at all. No, not at all. It comes from China.
China.
Every one of the people you just saw should resign in disgrace and should spend the next decade in ashes and sackcloth pondering what they've done, which is cover for a crime. And by the way, if the U.S. media had swung behind the evidence in this story and pressed, where did this virus come from, then it's at least potentially conceivable that scientists in the United States would have forced the government of China to release the information they had about the genetic makeup of COVID. Maybe we've had a vaccine that worked, for example, or a medical response that saved Americans' lives, but they didn't. None of them did. The New York Times' top global health and COVID reporter, a person called Purva Mandavili, wrote, quote, "Someday we will stop talking about the lab leak theory and maybe even admit its racist roots. But alas..."
The racist roots. Racist how?
That day is not today. Where is the Oberlin Sociology Department New York Times pipeline? Like, when did that start? Why are they hiring the dumbest and most reflexive people who take their opinions whole?
Well, it's just the current thing, I guess, would be the right way to put it. Because the not dumbest and not most reflexive people are banned, shadow banned, et cetera, et cetera.
Wholesale from the hive of Twitter. There were a few people who are not deterred by racist, shut up. They said what was clearly true, and for their trouble, they were denounced as crazed science deniers. Science deniers, okay. Senator Tom Cotton was attacked because he relied on a map and common sense to ask a very simple question. Here's what he said.
Here's what we do know. This virus did not originate in the Wuhan animal market. Just a few miles away from that food market is China's only biosafety level 4 super laboratory that researches human infectious diseases. Now, we don't have evidence that this disease originated there, but because of China's duplicity and dishonesty from the beginning, we need to at least ask the question.
Asking questions racist.
Well, yeah. And by the way, that wasn't a guess. A wet market is a seafood market. A pangolin is a mammal. So they weren't selling pangolins in a seafood market, for one thing. For another, a group of Chinese researchers went and interviewed everybody in the wet market and asked, have you ever seen a pangolin for sale here? Or bats, another mammal? No, not one had. That was on the internet. We read it. We reported it. That was February 2020. So what we knew at that point was the Chinese government's lying. Tom Cotton was absolutely right. And for his trouble, he was called insane, a conspiracy theorist.
Tom Cotton a couple of days ago spouting a conspiracy theory that the Chinese made.
Conspiracy theory. Conspiracy theory.
This virus up. Don't try to spool up some of whoever was wearing tinfoil hats in your audience.
Let's apply Occam's razor and just call crazy. This is crazy. This is an insane thing to do. It's just wildly irresponsible and was totally unnecessary. I don't know what Tom Cotton gets out of this.
In the 1980s, I remember when the far left trafficked in rumors about HIV having been invented in CIA labs. The far right has now found its own virus conspiracy theory.
I think we just need to get to the point now in society where if somebody says conspiracy theory is blah, 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 conspiracy theory or racist or anything like that, we just go, okay, and ignore them because it's ridiculous. It's stupid. And it's wrong. They are always wrong. It's not a conspiracy theorist or racist. It's just a truth they don't want you to know.
Oh, yes. Let's have the plagiarist Fareed Zakaria on to tell us about science. By the way, it wasn't just Tom Cotton who was attacked. It's almost too unpleasant to bring you the story because the wall of dishonesty was impenetrable at that point 3 years ago. The one thing we needed to know, where did this come from, was the one thing they wouldn't let you even consider. In fact, if you did, you would be unpersoned. Facebook banned any user who suggested the virus was man-made because, and we're quoting, the science was settled. Well, it's not settled at all. There was no science. We didn't know anything. As NPR reported, quote, scientists...
The science is the whole point of science is that it's never settled. It is always changing.
Debunk lab accident theory of pandemic emergence. Really, on what basis? They had no evidence to, quote, debunk it. But that didn't stop Vox from, quote, reporting, and we're quoting now, no, coronavirus did not start in a Chinese lab. They had no idea. They were just flat out shilling for the Chinese government and hiding its complicity in mass murder. What? And then a woman called Laura Helmuth, the diversity hire now running the once but no longer respected publication Scientific American, said, quote, it's a conspiracy theory to believe a lab leak had occurred. But it did. That's the thing. Facts still matter. Every facet, every element, every link in the chain that connects every part of elite America to itself pushed the same lies. Even the quote, comedians, they were on propaganda duty too. Watch this.
He's also pushing U.S. intelligence to find evidence for this theory that the virus was accidentally released from a lab in Wuhan. That's his new angle to feed the wingnuts, to treat this virus like it was a conspiracy of some kind.
It should have never happened. This plague should never have happened. It could have been stopped. But people chose not to stop it.
What people? Tomorrow he'll blame the Spanish flu on Antonio Banderas.
Yeah.
You know, these guys are a fucking woodchipper.
Imagine if you're a comedian and all of a sudden your cue card has all kinds of talking points from politicians and foreign governments on it. Don't read it. You degrade yourself and you become complicit in the greatest crime in history. So you have to ask, what role did the U.S. intelligence agencies play in all of this? Of course, they knew. Well, at one point, MSNBC's Nicole Wallace, the single most dishonest person on television now or ever, claimed that, and we're quoting, Donald Trump is turning his intelligence community to now investigate a conspiracy theory about COVID coming from a lab in Wuhan. By the way, we're not watching this woman's show, but is she in tears tonight begging the forgiveness of her audience? No. But let's parse this for a second. Obviously, she was wrong about the origins of the virus. It did come from that lab, intentionally or not. But what's interesting is that she was also...
I think we should hold everybody to task who said it was racist or a conspiracy theorist or just wrong to say that this stuff came from the lab.
Also wrong about what Donald Trump's government, under the leadership and part of Mike Pompeo, was doing. On March 17, 2020, a group of scientists wrote a paper in Nature magazine. That paper concluded that, quote, we do not believe that any type of laboratory-based scenario is plausible. Now, that's the final word. That's the science. Well, internal NIH emails show that Tony Fauci helped edit that paper. He did not disclose this publicly. It was all behind the scenes. Now, that's significant because Fauci was funding bat coronavirus experiments in Wuhan, the ones that apparently caused the pandemic. So he was editing the report on the origin of the virus? Okay. That's not peer-reviewed, as we say. It's the opposite. As Paul Thacker reports on his Substack, just a few days after that paper was published in Nature, the State Department's Office of Outreach, part of the Bureau of Intelligence and Research, began promoting these false findings, these lies. The State Department covertly recruited scientists to go around Washington, D.C. in off-the-record high-level meetings, telling everyone who had listed that COVID, quote, emerged naturally in an animal before...
No. No.
...before crossing to humans and was not engineered in a lab. Now, the scientists who made this false briefing, who told these lies, cited one source, the Nature article that was secretly edited by Tony Fauci. In other words, and we could give you 1,000 other examples, America's, not China's, America.
I literally cannot add any more names to the list up top. But can we please pretend Tony Fauci's name is up there, because God bless, that one needs to be yeeted faster than any of the rest. Oh boy.
America's entire leadership class, from the government to the intel agencies to elected officials to, of course, the media in unison, spent years trying to hide Chinese culpability for the greatest crime in human history. They cooked up fake papers and bogus data. They attacked anyone who asked obvious questions, even people who were in Wuhan at the time who knew. And you have to ask, why did they do this? Could it be that they were implicated in this too? They were implicated in creating the worst pandemic in modern history? We're not sure. But it's an amazing story. As we told you, Li Mengyang was one of the first people to tell the truth in the United States at great personal cost. She was there. She joins us now. Subscribe to the Fox News YouTube.
Don't you mean the science? Yes. Guys, donate to Streamlabs down below to ban the science.
Well, here's a trivia fact you may not have known. Since 1967, 56 years, the Disney Corporation has enjoyed near total control over about 40 square miles of Florida, its own little Vatican City. And this is by act of the Florida legislature, which empowered Disney to function effectively as its government. Disney could even acquire territory outside its chunk of land by eminent domain, just take it from people. Now, last year, people began to wonder, why would Disney, which is a totally politicized company that pushes race hate, and sexualized propaganda.
And plus, if you do the dono that I mentioned earlier, you could probably knock off Steel Fang and become stream boss.
Again, on children. Why would they have all these special benefits in the state of Florida? Good question. So last year, Florida's legislature passed a bill ending this weird little arrangement Disney had. Of course, they hated it.
Yeah, of course they hated it. The giant mega corporation that's all about profits. Profits hates having something taken away from them. I'm shocked.
Florida's Governor Ron DeSantis pushed for and then signed that bill into law. Governor DeSantis joins us tonight. Governor, thanks so much for coming on. So why did you see this as an important thing to do as the governor?
Well, as you pointed out, Tucker, I mean, no company or individual in Florida, or probably anywhere else in our whole country, has enjoyed their own governing status, being exempt from many of the laws of the state of Florida, massive subsidies. So it's
Yeah, it makes me think what they're up to there, huh?
not a good arrangement to begin with. But if you remember last year, they came out very strong against a piece of legislation to protect parents' rights and to protect young children from having sexualized curriculum in things like elementary school. And then they had executives talking about it was their intent to jam some of this sexualized programming in the Disney cartoons and programming for young kids. So then we're in a situation, Tucker, where they're taking those positions as a company which are antithetical to our values, but with this arrangement, Florida was subsidizing that type of activism. That could no longer stand. And so now today in the state of Florida, for the first time since 1967, Disney no longer has its own government. They're going to have to abide by the same laws as everybody else. They're going to finally pay their fair share of taxes and pay all the debts that they've racked up over these decades.
But my understanding was in a democracy, unelected corporate executives get to make your laws for you. No?
Well, you know, there's a lot of people in the corporate press that think that that's what they would rather have. You know, I just won by 1.5 million votes, and then I go and do what I said I would do, and they squeal. They would much rather have Disney running the show in Central Florida.
Because Disney pays their bills. It's always about the money.
But there's a new sheriff in town, and I think that this is going to be good for the state of Florida. And I'll tell you, Tucker, the people that work there have been very, very thankful that we took this action. The firefighters, for example, on site, we're so glad that we're finally stepping up, going to listen to them, and going to treat them much better.
So you just wrote a book about what you've done in Florida called The Courage to Be Free, Florida's Blueprint, if I can pronounce it, for America's Revival. It's out tomorrow. What's it about?
Well, people would say, how'd you do it in Florida? I mean, we've become the focus point of freedom in the United States, and even around the world, people look at Florida.
They really have, and Trump has done nothing but bring a closer eye to what's happening in Florida because of his Ron D. Sanctimonious comments.
You just had someone from Spain saying, a politician, she wants Spain to be the Florida of Europe. And I think what we do is we talk about the different fights that we've had, our approach to leadership. But at the end of the day, Tucker, you talk about it all the time on your show. Yes, we got to fight overweening government, very important. And we have a very vast administrative state that we battle with Biden. But you also have corporate America going woke, big tech censoring.
What are you doing? I'm posting false information on the web. Why? It's fun.
Oh, fuck. I love that. Who is the one or group that has the godlike power to make it official? The state that it came from. Oh, to state that it came from a lab and everyone now just accepts it?
You have the right to remain silent.
I choose to waive that right.
It ain't much, but it's honest work. Thank you for the stream, Sin. Thank you, Jacob. I really appreciate that, man. Much appreciated. Hasn't Scott Adams been canceled? Oh, is he the guy who made Dilbert? I don't know because I'm uneducated scum. But what I am going to do is replay the official donation for the year 2023.
What are you doing? I'm posting false information on the web. Why? It's fun. What are you doing?
I love it. I love it so much. The official 2023 donation.
Fights all across the scene, and when you stand up for what's right, they come after you. It isn't easy.
What the hell did Scott Adams do? I didn't see any of this. I'm not getting rid of the donation, by the way.
So you got to have the courage of your convictions to stand.
Thank you, Steelfang. Putting a little Curaga on him up to 54,000 HP. Not bad, sir. Not bad.
Strong, but I think what we've shown in Florida, if you do that and people see you're willing to fight for them, they'll walk over broken glass barefoot to vote for you. And I'm proof positive of that. 4 years ago, I won by 32,000 votes. Last November, I won by 1.5 million votes.
Yeah. Well, movement is the ultimate election. People are moving there. So that kind of tells you, I would say, a lot. Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida, thank you very much. Subscribe to the Fox News YouTube channel to catch our nightly opens. Stories that are changing the world and changing your life. From Tucker Carlson tonight. As we told you, Li Mengyang was one of the first people to tell the truth in the United States at great personal cost. She was there. She joins us now. Doctor, thank you so much for coming on. You said 3 years ago that you believe that this virus was intentional.
We're about 20% to goal, guys. And if you look, you're almost taking over the IRS.
Intentionally released by the government you once worked for, the government of China. Today we're hearing in this leak to the Wall Street Journal that it was accidental. Do you believe this leak was accidental or intentional?
Hi, Tucker. Thank you for having me again. First, I really want to appreciate you and also Fox News have been taking so much efforts pursuing the truth of COVID origin. Without your help, there won't be such milestone achievement. And I want to tell, of course, it was not an accident, and maybe.
Wait, she's not dead? No way. She left China. I'm sure they're trying to get at her, but and she's not dead. I'm really excited to see the reaction to the 3332 if anyone is thinking about donating, because I know there's so many. I'm pointing you in a direction if you feel like donating.
For people who don't have this kind of biosafety labs 3 or
not required, appreciated, but I do want you to smash that like button.
4 experience on coronavirus, maybe it's easy for them to accept the
She ran ASAP. Oh my God, she probably had that little sonic trail behind her.
Accident and lab leak. However, I'm the scientist working in such lab using coronavirus, and I can tell you, based on the protocol and also the other surveillance system, it will be impossible for the lab leak accidentally happen in such lab and cause the Wuhan outbreak and also the pandemic. So definitely, now we just reached to the first step. It was from China's lab, and we need to pursue the truth of origin, and we need to keep going on.
We know the Chinese government allowed its infected citizens to travel in huge groups to Western Europe in the early days of the pandemic. That was intentional. But you believe the whole thing, they came up with this virus and they unleashed it on the world to destroy the Western economies and to elevate their own position globally.
I want emphasize one thing is, I would say, based on the evidence and the source I have, that the lab, virus was intentionally brought out of this strict lab and released in the community. However, I don't think the outbreak in Wuhan was intentional. I would say it was because CCP government and the military scientists underestimate the transmissibility. That's why finally it got out of control and caused
I don't know if she's telling the truth or not, but I 100% think it was intentional. This kind of thing does not happen on accident with nobody being held accountable.
Local outbreak. However, we should know that CCP government intentionally to let it go all over the world to kill millions of people all over the world later.
We just have to hope and pray that you will be interviewed by many other journalists in this country over the coming weeks. Now that this has been confirmed.
Yeah, don't hold your breath.
You're an eyewitness to it. You have I think, a credible story to tell, and I really hope you're no longer ignored. I appreciate your coming on again tonight. Li-Meng Yang, thank you so much.
Thank you, Tucker.
Yeah, if it was an accident, people would be held accountable. We don't have anybody held accountable.
Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. There is a poignant but recognizable thing that happens to powerful men as they decline. They get bursts of irrational energy. The 85-year-old tycoon marries a stripper.
Wait,
as we told you,
we just phased out of our page. We're going to have to go back to that clip.
Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. Well, it looks like...
All right, just a short time ago, I sat down with former Vice President
If we have time, we'll go
Chris
back
Miller is
and
the
argue
former
with that
acting
one.
Secretary of Defense, the author of Soldier Secretary. He joins us tonight. Mr. Miller, thank you so much for coming on. Forging an alliance between Russia and China seems like the end of American power in a lot of the world and a massive new threat that dwarfs anything Putin has ever done in Ukraine. Why would they allow this to happen? Do they want this to happen? What's the thinking? Do you know?
Tucker, first, I have to go there. Vivek just announced that he's going to run for president. Did I hear that right in the last segment?
He did, yes.
That's just amazing. So I'm literally second fiddle. But, you know, he basically gave, I thought, a great foreign policy laydown for where we should be going forward on this. Your question, though, I got to tell you, you know, the president, I'm going to give him props for, you know, his speechwriters gave a pretty good speech. And, you know, I look forward to him coming back to the United States and going out to Palestine, Ohio, or going down on the border and saying the same sort of things. That's irony, Tucker. You know that because I'm Generation X and I'm like a Letterman guy, right? So my point simply is we spend $1 trillion a year on national defense. And my point
This guy's kind of annoying.
from my book is, holy cow, that we have to look at this differently, and we need to bring that money home and spend it on things here in America to make America stronger. Your point about China and Russia is so valid. I'll be a little bit counterfactual on you, or a little bit iconoclastic. I think Chairman Xi and the Chinese Communist Party are laughing all the way to the bank right now as they play us again.
Well, sure, but you know, military and economic alliances are going to affect our economy. I mean, you got to think China's primary goal is to make money, right? I mean, it's a business/government, and if China and Russia are allied, Russia providing the raw materials, I mean, this just makes the Chinese trade bloc much bigger and us much weaker, does it not?
Yeah, with the 2,500-mile border between China and Russia, and with Russia focused on Ukraine to the west right now, I got to think the Chinese Communist Party is just licking their lips going, this, we couldn't ask for better, because you know as well as I do, they have serious limitations on their natural resources, and it all lies to the north. So, you know, it's a little bit of an off-the-wall answer, but
nobody should be surprised by China trying to team up with Russia. Literally nobody.
I think the Chinese are playing the long game. You know, we as you highlight so much on your show, is we have this short view, and we need, and frankly, Vivek said the same thing. You know, we have to look long term, and I think the Chinese probably are playing us both pretty well.
Of course they are, as always, and we're letting them. Chris Miller, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me, Tucker. Really important issues. Thanks for the hard hit.
Of course we're letting the Chinese play us. Are we going to get our shiny plastic crap from anywhere else? Hell no.
In Poland, doing his semi-literate Winston Churchill imitation, his own country doesn't seem to be improving. Thousands of Americans in East Palestine, Ohio, for example, are worried about their health and their finances. Fox's Garrett Tenney just spoke to one of them.
Half a mile down the tracks from where a Norfolk Southern train derailed, Chris Ramoldi says, like a lot of people in this town, he's stuck.
I do roofing and siding for a living. Are you going to want to put siding and a new roof on your house that your property values are dropping? So my future's uncertain as far as my business in this town.
Chris also isn't convinced the air inside his home is safe, despite testing by the railway last week. His family...
The railway... hold on. The railway investigated the railway and found out that the railway did nothing wrong. I'm shocked. Shocked, man.
His health issues haven't gone away, and yesterday he says his fiancée found an oily sheen on top of their dehumidifier's water.
So that tells me that if this chemical sticks to water, my dehumidifier's taking water out of the air in the basement, it's obviously still there.
So as all this is going on, the transportation secretary, who's supposed to be preventing train derailments, hasn't bothered to visit East Palestine, Ohio, more than 2 weeks after the derailment, more than 2 weeks after authorities lit the toxic chemicals on fire. He doesn't have time, but he does have time to do morning shows. He just did.
When are you going to go to East Palestine?
Well, I am planning to go. When I go, the focus is going to be on action. Look, I was mayor of my hometown for 8 years. We dealt with a lot of disasters, natural and human. And one of the things I noticed very quickly is that there's two kinds of people who show up when you have that kind of disaster experience. People who are there because they have a specific job to do and are...
Pay attention to what he's saying. Stop looking at Ohio and donate to Ukraine. No, if you want to donate to Ohio, my Streamlabs is in the chat and down below. Ohio needs help, goddammit.
Are there to get something done.
Ohio is bad news bears. You heard that drunkle yesterday. We have turtles taking up martial arts and an affinity for pizza.
And people who are there to look good and have their picture taken. When I go, it will be about action on rail safety.
If there's any member of the Biden administration who deserves to lose his job immediately, it's that guy. Nathan and Kelly Izadek are in East Palestine. They live there. We talked to them a couple days ago, and since we spoke, they tell us they've been coughing up blood. So we want to get an update from them. Nathan and Kelly join us now. Thank you both for coming on. Nathan, first to you. Coughing up blood.
Holy shit. Let me just cough real quick. These two, I don't know if I trust these two.
Yes, Tucker. It was days after the incident, and it would have been the Sunday. And I woke up in a very horrific coughing spell, almost like a bronchitis or pneumonia type. And yeah, I don't know if it was just from the coughing fits or what, but spats of blood did appear that night. And a few days later, obviously, we evacuated town. It resided and went away, but that was one of the side effects.
How old are you?
I'm 30 now. Just turned 30 back in February 16th.
Yeah, I'm no doctor, but you should not be coughing up blood. We're going to speak to a doctor in a minute. I mean, I'm telling you what you know, but that's not a good sign. Kelly, how are you feeling?
The headaches are horrible. They pretty much, when I'm about 3 to 4 miles outside of town, they start, and as long as I'm within a few miles of the the crash site, I've got headaches, really bad headaches.
Am I the only person that just doesn't really trust these two?
Migraines.
Has anyone tried to explain to you why you might be having these symptoms?
Well, if we're talking the Ohio Dr. Fauci's, we can go and, they're going to try to point it towards having COVID-related symptoms, but obviously, no, that's not the case.
Yeah, no, that's not the case. Coughing up blood is not, I don't think, a valid COVID symptom at this point. How does it smell? I mean, we have a sense of smell for a reason. The nose knows that, there's truth in that. How does your town smell?
It's Ohio, so it smells like shit.
I mean, it's still blatant. Even your cameraman here, that's one of the first things I asked him was, do you smell what's smelling outside? And he says, yeah, it's a sweet odor. It smells terrible. And again, it's more towards the evening when it's more prominent.
Yeah, I hate to ask you about money, but I can't resist. I mean, what about homeowners in East Palestine? Like, you got to think that their home values are bottoming out.
Go ahead.
Nobody is ever going to purchase a home that has East Palestine in the address. Yeah. I mean, this is,
that's still true, though. No, it's not.
This has definitely made our value plummet.
Are you homeowners? Yes, we are homeowners here, sir.
Man, I'm so sorry.
And,
that part is undeniably true, though. Nobody's purchasing a house there. I'm skipping that. Okay.
Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson's Happy Wednesday. It seems like ancient history now, but in the fall of 2021, not so long ago, America's supply chains came close to snapping. Remember this? More than 100 cargo ships were floating,
it hasn't gotten any better
off the coast of LA and Long Beach. Those are the two biggest ports on the West Coast. Those ships were filled with consumer goods bound for stores and consumers across the country, but they couldn't offload them. There's no place to do it. The containers just sat there. And in any case, thanks to the Biden administration's vaccine mandates, there weren't enough truckers to pick up the cargo and take it anywhere. So all of that combined to create the worst shipping bottleneck in memory, and it lasted for months. The price of transporting goods to this country rose by 600%. So if you're wondering why inflation started to go up, that's a big part of the reason. Now, none of this happened by accident. The bottleneck was a man-made disaster. And it could have been, should have been, fixed by the people in charge of transportation.
Of course not. He's busy trying to chest feed his gaby.
They're called the Department of Transportation. But for much of the time this disaster was unfolding, Joe Biden's Secretary of Transportation, that would be Pete Buttigieg.
Why they're in the hospital, I genuinely don't know.
South Bend, Indiana, was completely disengaged. He wasn't on the job. He was at home. He was on paid paternity leave, posing for selfies for social media. Now, Buttigieg didn't seem embarrassed at all by this.
Wasn't this, like during COVID when people were supposedly overrunning hospitals?
This is work, he said, though in fact he had played no role whatsoever in giving birth to a child. Quote, "It may be time away from a professional role, but it's very much time on." And actually, it was time on television. Pete Buttigieg used his time to appear on various shows, including The View on ABC, where he spoke at length about his favorite subject, which is himself. Not the container disaster, me. Meanwhile, the ships stacked up outside the ports and inflation went up. So that should conclusively have been the end of Pete Buttigieg's career as transportation secretary. Back to McKinsey for you. Whatever you think of his personal journey of self-discovery, there was an emergency in progress and Buttigieg ignored it. If anything is grounds for firing somebody, it's that. But the Biden administration did not fire Pete Buttigieg. They did the opposite. They praised him for breaking some important but not very well-defined glass ceiling of some sort that you're supposed to be excited about. They rewarded his dereliction of duty. So because people do respond to incentives, Pete Buttigieg kept doing it. He kept proudly ignoring his job. Weeks after a train derailed in East Palestine, Ohio, causing an actual environmental disaster throughout the whole region, Pete Buttigieg, as of tonight, has still not visited East Palestine. Why? What has he been doing?
Dadding.
Well, as he explained to a Daily Caller reporter last night, he's taking more personal time.
What do you have to say to the folks in Ohio, East Palestine, who are suffering right now?
Well, I'd refer you to about a dozen interviews I've given today, and if you'd like to arrange a conversation, be sure to reach out to our press office, but I'm not going to have that conversation with you. Just walk
You
down
don't
the
have a
street
message
here.
for them?
I do, and I shared it with the press many times today. I'd refer you to those comments.
Quit fucking bothering me on vacation, bitch. I don't give a fuck about no Ohioans. Fuck them. They voted red. They mean nothing to me. Fuck this scumbag, dude. Holy shit. He's got one fucking job in the entire country. And what? He's too good to do it? He's too busy? With what? With fucking what? He's not doing shit. He showed up here, put on a hard hat, and ran away from the press. He's more mad that he had his personal time taken away from his no-show job than the actual derailment. Again, like I said before, if this was a thing that was not supposed to happen, somebody would be taking the blame for it. Sure, Biden kind of hinted at Buttigieg taking the blame, but he's not. He's not. Nobody's taking the blame for what happened in all the other train derailments we covered. And this scumbag motherfucker wants to get up there and go, well, actually, I'm on my personal time and I gave an interview already, so go watch that. I don't have time to sit here for 2 seconds and talk to you. Actually, fuck you, bitch. What a scumfuck.
Do you mind sharing it with us?
No, I'm going to refer you to the comments that I made to the press because...
Hey, can you give us one sentence on how we're going to fix the issue? Yeah, fuck you.
Right now, I'm taking some personal time and I'm walking down the street.
Are you going down there?
What's that?
Are you going down there at all?
Yep, I am.
When are you going?
I'll share that when I'm ready.
Okay,
thank
you.
Can I get a photo of you?
What a scumbag piece of shit. Hey, let me get a photo of you so I can give it to my team to know that you're banned from anywhere near me. Again, for asking too many questions. Fire him? They're never going to fire him. They are never going to fire him. He is too popular to fire.
I'm taking some personal time. Not just a robot, but a nasty one. Could I get a photo of you? And then he did. Now you wonder what Pete Buttigieg is going to do with that photo. Makes you shiver a little bit if you think too much about it, so we're going to stop.
And when asked about it, he said, I can't share that.
Meanwhile,
unfortunately, you're right, Sinatra. It is what it is, man. It is what it is. It's fucking awful. These people think they can just act or not act with impunity and nothing is going to happen. Like, people are just going to praise him for what? Just the mere fact of who he likes? Are you shitting me? No, that's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. You don't get to be praised for being who you are. You get praised for doing the right thing at the right time. And he has not done any of that. This dude is nothing more than a power-hungry shill. That's it. If he's doing this bad in his job doing this, imagine how he would be as president.
Outside Mayor Pete's nifty little cocoon of bistros and Instagram selfies, life goes on in America, and in many places it is getting tougher. Not that he cares, even a little bit. Here's the mayor of East Palestine on February 16th, nearly 2 weeks after the derailment, explaining that he'd heard nothing from Pete Buttigieg. Watch. That was last week. He still didn't go. This week, people in East Palestine are coughing up blood. We know that because we talked to a couple of them last night. But still, Pete Buttigieg has not shown up. Donald Trump has, by the way. He went today. He's not able to fix the problem. It's not like he's the Secretary of Transportation. But Trump did bring pallets of bottled water and then bought the entire fire department dinner at McDonald's. Whatever you think of Trump, at least he cared enough to go there. That's something. In fact, it's enough to make you wonder how someone who clearly doesn't care at all, not even a little bit, who doesn't even care enough to pretend he cares, wound up with one of the most important jobs in the Biden cabinet. a job with actual responsibilities. How did he do that? Well, we know what the answer is. No, Pete Buttigieg doesn't know anything about transportation. We would bet money he can't drive a stick shift. On the other hand, Pete Buttigieg is gay. He plays the
And that's all that matters.
piano, and he speaks Norwegian. Let's hire him. Watch.
There he was yesterday, front and center, now third in the polls with a speech that many have said are historic.
He's inspirational so far, and that's something that voters absolutely want.
He has this appeal for a lot of reasons. He is a veteran. He is openly gay. He is from Indiana.
You are a concert pianist. Yeah. You speak many languages, including Norwegian, that you learned because you wanted to read a book.
The second coming of Obama, huh? We'll see about that. My prayers may have been answered if that's true.
The draw to this point has been young, fresh, positive, and a change agent.
This guy is chicken soup for my soul.
So you sort of long to see Pete Buttigieg fired from his job.
Fired. Fired is the least.
Something personal.
I don't know how this isn't treason, but, you know.
Personal. Aren't many people who hate Pete Buttigieg. What Pete Buttigieg is actually like, or how well his Norwegian actually is irrelevant. You long to see him fired because you long to see someone at some point held accountable for disasters. When the Biden administration pulled out of Afghanistan and armed the Taliban with one of the largest militaries in the entire region.
Just let him have it. Gargle that, yep. Oh, shit. And it's our tax money going right into his pocket, too. And it's just fantastic. It's just amazing. We are to about 20% to goal, though, guys. That's pretty good. Please smash the like button. Please share it out. And if you feel so inclined, toss a couple of buckaroos into the hat.
No one was punished. The only person in the U.S. military that we're aware of who was punished for that debacle was the guy who complained about it. That's it. No one was ever punished for COVID. When it turns out the vaccines didn't do what they thought they were, what they told us they were going to do. When the lockdowns hurt more people than they helped. When Fauci was caught lying about virtually everything, not one person was punished. So it would be encouraging to see someone punished for this debacle, for the 1,000 train derailments we have every year, as Pete Buttigieg blithely informed us the other day. But Pete Buttigieg has not been fired, and he likely won't be. Why is that? Well, we're thinking it's because he's on board with the core idea of the Biden administration, and that is equity. And equity means we're going to make decisions based on how you look. And Pete Buttigieg is all in on that. Watch him explain that actually all lives don't matter.
In 2015, you said that all lives matter when you spoke about two police controversies that were happening in South Bend. Was that a mistake?
What I did not understand at that time was that that phrase, just early into mid, especially 2015, was coming to be viewed as a sort of counter slogan to Black Lives Matter. And so this statement that seems very anodyne and something that's kind of nobody could be against actually wound up being used to devalue what the Black Lives Matter movement was telling us.
Oh my God. Is this a joke? Right, this is a joke.
Learning about how that phrase was being used to push back on that activism, I stopped using it in that context.
Imagine apologizing for saying all lives matter. No, they actually don't all matter, says the head of the Department of Transportation. And you can see now that he means it. A train derails on his watch in a town full of high school educated Trump voters who nobody cares about and have been left behind, and they are further ignored. But that's not environmental racism. No, it's equity. So clearly, he knows all lives don't matter, and he's being rewarded for it. Subscribe to the Fox News.
Yeah, the only lives that matter, the lives that don't matter, are the lives that didn't vote for him or Biden or the leftists or donate to Ukraine, etc., etc. Our lives, ours, in the chat. We're the lives that don't matter.
Wagner was in his early 20s when, like so many young men, his life derailed. He became addicted to drugs. He was depressed. He also watched a lot of porn, and porn gave him the idea that he might, in fact, be a woman.
Okay, next.
Victor Davis Hanson is a senior fellow at the Hoover Institution and joins us tonight to assess. Professor, thanks for coming on. Wouldn't it be nice to see somebody pay some price for ineptitude and indifference?
Yeah, it would. He's jumped the proverbial shark, though. He's the epitome of the empty resume class. I mean, his only qualifications for the job were his identity politics credentials and the fact that he went to Harvard and Oxford, and the media and the bicoastal elite gaga over him. But otherwise, Tucker, he had the un-Midas touch.
Next, yeah, I'm not getting into this blaming porn for making people trans. No, we're just moving right on. You have any snow? No.
Everything he's touched, whether it was the port crowding at our major ports, or the train robbing of trains going into the ports, or these recent 4 accidents where airliners almost crashed, or the Southwest implosion, or the whole meltdown during the holiday season of our airline system, or these rail car,
How about we talk about the trains derailing with all the toxic chemicals that they shouldn't even be transferring through residential areas.
Thing he either ignores or he offers these platitudes. And how ironic that
Mayor Pete, how are you dealing with the trains derailing at alarming rates? Black Lives Matter. Mayor Pete, do you have any idea why we need to send hazmat crews into every train derailment? I'm gay.
Right on the eve, or right in the midst, I should say, of this tragedy in East Palestine, of this white working class tiny community with an average income about $45,000, he was lecturing the nation that white hard hats don't look like the community they are working in, and that's not true. It's not only that is he pandering, but he's often inaccurate and ignorant. Here in California, most of the construction workers you see on the elite coast are Hispanic, and most of the residents are white upper class people. That's just the way America works. But he always tries to, in lieu of actually doing something, he always tries to have a rhetorical or an abstract victory. And I think people finally just feel, they're tired of him. And he's afraid. He talks very bold and like he's bold and he's dynamic, but he's very cowardly because he's afraid to go in and confront these people and tell them why that FEMA wasted 2 weeks before they addressed their concerns and why he hasn't been there. And we know the reason is that he doesn't want to sit there and talk to people when they ask him questions he can't answer. And so he's just sort of what this entire cabinet is, that this cabinet was either predicated on being an identity politics first in their field, so to speak, or they...
Yeah, no, that is 100% it. It's identity politics to the nth degree. No qualifications needed as long as you are some thing.
They were candidates that pulled out and gave the nomination to Joe Biden. But otherwise, none of them had any demonstrable experience or expertise in the field that they were supposed to serve us, the people.
That's right. It's just a little bit funny. They've been lecturing us now for 2 years about something called environmental racism, and then there's an actual environmental disaster in the midst of a community of people who didn't vote for them, and they ignore it. That actually does look like environmental racism to me.
It is, and the reason is that East Palestine is right on the border of Pennsylvania, and it's in Klinger. It's the very area that in 2008 Barack Obama blasted as they cling to their religion. And then we know how Joe Biden has called Trump supporters chumps and dregs, and we know the irredeemables and deplorable vocabulary of Hillary Clinton. So they have a long record of disparagement of the white working class. I don't know why they think they can just get away with it so easily without some kind of reaction, but it is racist. And if this was in Malibu, or this was in Martha's Vineyard, or even in Compton or South Central, there would be an immediate U.S. government response by this administration.
Right. Among the rich or the fashionable poor, but these people fall through the cracks, right?
Yeah,
every single time. Victor Davis Hanson joining us tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Whatever you think of Donald Trump, when he's unleashed in a crowd of people, he's pretty unbelievable. If you haven't seen the tape,
I mean that's fair enough.
Of him ordering at McDonald's in East Palestine, treat yourself. He wows everyone in the room. Again, you don't have to love Trump to know he's really good at this, and it's real. I mean, he feels it. That's why he's so good at it. So he's a huge threat. But in a normal country, in a democracy, you would let voters decide whether they want him to run the country again. But no, partisan prosecutors at all levels, state and federal, are trying to prevent him from running for president again. Everyone knows this. No one ever says it, but it's true. It's happening. In Fulton County, Georgia, for example.
Because Trump is effective, whether you like him or not, he's effective. I see a few people in the chat. John Galt finally decides to show up. I've been trying to goat you over here for months. It is absolutely classist. You're 100% right. It's classist. If this happened in Martha's Vineyard or in, I forget the name of the town that borders Compton, in Orange, whatever. If this happened in any of those places, like where they sent the immigrants, it would be turned over, cleaned up, and pristine like that. If this happened at the railroad closest to Obama's house, oh fucking boy.
Prosecutors have a grand jury going, and they've put a self-described witch on it. This is the grand jury investigating Trump for election interference. In other words, for complaining about what was clearly an unfair election. Now, this person is called Emily Kors. She is the foreperson of the jury, and she posts online about different spells she can cast. CNN just interviewed her. How'd it go? We'll let you assess. Watch.
What? Has my target abusive jack off shown up? No, he's been a good boy. He's been a good boy. Hello, Valine. I made a donation I think you'll like, Valine. It's 3323 Dead, D-E-A-D. You figure it out.
Not a short list. Not a short list.
She's got the crazy eyes. I'm not saying I believe in phrenology, but like when Polly had that game, what'd that bitch do? You can tell.
More, I mean, when it comes to 75 witnesses, like, it's not, I assume, of course, it's not 75 people. Would you characterize it as 20-ish people?
I can't say I counted.
Okay. More than a dozen, though, I think I'd heard you say in another interview?
I believe so. I'd be interested to know.
I'm sure we will hear more from him after after it all comes out.
I will be happy as long as something happens.
Yeah, just a jury of your peers. Guaranteed by the Constitution. Charlie Hurt is the opinion editor of the Washington Times. He joins us.
Isn't that enough to get you kicked off a jury?
Now, I mean, I didn't even know this was allowed. I didn't know the foreperson, whatever that is allowed to do CNN interviews while the grand jury's still in panel, or doesn't this? Anyway, what do you make of this? I'll stop. What's your take on this?
And she was picked by the other jurors to be the foreperson. So I'd hate to see the rest of the juries. You know, this woman, she's a lunatic, obviously, as you point out. But she's, you know, this is kind of what you get with America on TikTok. This is, to her, this is all a big social media thing. And the fact that she's, and not to mention, of course, these things, you know, grand juries are supposed to be done in secret. She's obviously blown through all of that, but it does sort of raise all kinds of questions. Well, gee, what else is going on in secret if this is the sort of thing that you wind up with? But if nothing else, she's a poster child for why we should only allow people who have jobs and pay taxes sit on juries. And she's also
I mean, that's a point, yeah.
a poster child for avoiding online dating.
Well, that is absolutely true, and I'm not going to take the bait on that, Charlie. But let me just affirm my agreement with it. But really quick, big picture, what's going on here is Democrats are using the legal system to stop a presidential candidate from running for president. Now, you don't have to love Trump, or it doesn't matter. If you believe in our system and wanted to continue, you should be outraged, hair on fire, angry about this, but no one's saying anything, so far as I can tell.
Well, that's the real serious side of all of this. You know, she's ridiculous, and it's easy to make fun of her. But if you know, think about this. Think
Why
if
does
this
she?
is an actual serious case.
Why does she talk like a Pixar cartoon? Because she thinks she is one. She strikes me as somebody who thinks that they are the center of every room they walk into.
And think if you had actual serious adult prosecutors prosecuting a serious case, and you are the person that was facing, your life in jail. And you looked up into the jury box and you saw this lunatic sitting in the jury box. These people make a mockery of everything we stand for. And I would argue...
What's up?
First the parents are dead.
I gotta see it one more time. Oh, fuck.
What's up?
First the parents are dead.
So stupid. Oh, it's so stupid. God damn it. I love it. Your foster parents are dead. A spookski for the 10. Hand rubber. Oh. Oh. Feline, this is a one-off. It's getting expensive to eat. So I'll be on a diet by default. I'm not giving up meat though. Yeah, you gotta stick to your bitch you fight. Well, you fight the bear in the woods, you kill it, you got the meat. Thank you, Feline. And Spookski, thank you. Good job. Good job. Thank you. I like that one. I love how Sin cracks up. Yeah, dude, and I knew that one because I put that one up today, but like half of the ones that you've been unlocking, Fustonia, I have forgotten about because they've been in there for like 3 weeks. Much appreciated, guys.
In a lot of ways, even more important than voting in this country is the concept of a jury of your peers.
I can see drugs.
You can't be railroaded by a bunch of people who aren't like you, who don't come from your society. And the idea that you would have a grand jury with people like this on it makes a mockery of all of that.
That's exactly right. I mean, that could be you. That is absolutely right. And I hope people think about that. Even people who don't like Trump, think about that. We're breaking too much. Charlie Hurt, thank you.
Great to see you.
Subscribe to the Fox News YouTube channel to catch our nightly opens. Stories that are changing the world and changing your life. Conrad Asca was born in 1974 in the tiny Caribbean nation of Antigua, and by every account, he was an outstanding person. Conrad was the leader of the family, said his brother. We all looked up to him. Asca was certainly a man of deep religious faith, and we know that because his final words...
that jury chick is a smash, but give her a false name. If I don't have to listen to her talk, if I can do it without hearing her speak, then yes. Her talking... Well, okay, hold on. Let me rephrase that. Not her talking. Her saying things is what's the turnoff there. But don't totally disagree. Thank you, Colt.
And the second before his death were, quote, "Lord, you now have my soul." Imagine saying that as your final sentence. But his death is a scandal. The reason he died is a scandal, and many in the aviation industry know about it, but it is never mentioned in public. So we thought we would tell you because there are lessons in his death for all of us who travel commercially. In February of...
She'd 100% let you play with the booty? Oh, God, yeah. That's entry level. That's first date.
2019, Asca was the first officer piloting an Amazon Prime cargo jet for a contractor called Atlas Air. They were flying a Boeing 767. As it approached Houston Airport, Asca assumed full control of the plane. Seconds later, while attempting to apply the speed brakes to land, Asca accidentally pressed a switch that put the plane into go-around mode, and that gave the plane an unexpected jolt of thrust. In response to this unexpected jolt, Asca panicked. Instead of checking his instruments to figure out what was going on, he pushed down hard on the control yoke. He pushed as hard as he could, and then the plane nosedived through the clouds and right into the water.
Sounds like this guy shouldn't be piloting a plane. Oh, it says right there, Asca should have never been piloting a plane. Yeah, this sounds like a person who just didn't know what they were doing.
The plane was obliterated on impact. It killed him, his co-pilot, and another pilot who was just hitching a ride. So it was obvious from those facts alone that Conrad Asca decent man though he was, should not have been in control of an airplane. And his personnel records confirm that strongly. Before he started flying 767s for Amazon and Atlas Air, he had been a pilot for 7 different airlines, including Mesa Airlines. Several instructors at Mesa reported that Aska was often overwhelmed in the cockpit, as he was on the day he died. One pilot later told the NTSB that in emergency...
Sonia, if I'm getting that right, it's about a dove? Something doving to death? I'm not sure.
Aska, quote, became extremely anxious and would start pushing a lot of buttons without thinking about what he was pushing, just to be doing something. To be clear, for a pilot, that can be deadly, and it was. Atlas Air says it was not aware of any incident when it hired Aska. But once he arrived at Atlas Air, Aska was so deficient in the simulator that all pilots have to train on, that the company had to restart simulator training just for him. All of his other classmates had graduated.
Look, man, if somebody's last in their class in goddamn piloting, maybe they just don't become a pilot. Okay? Maybe they're just not meant to be a pilot.
Predictably, in its final report into the Atlas Air crash, the NTSB cited as a cause of the deadly crash the, quote, systemic deficiencies in the aviation industry's selection and performance measurement practices, which failed to address the first officer's aptitude-related deficiencies and maladaptive stress response.
Okay, I'm going to be a little touchy right here, but we don't need fucking diversity hires lowering qualifications in things like piloting. We don't need women pilots because there's low amounts of women pilots. We don't need trans helicopter captains because there's low trans people in piloting. We don't need that. We don't fucking need that. We need safe people, competent people flying planes.
By the way, those are things that all airlines and the military screen for and have since.
Holding tragedies, holding our... Oh, fuck, what's the word I'm looking for here? What am I looking for? Holding... our standards, our safety standards and safety regulations at a certain level rather than lowering them seems like the better way to go. Just because you make something easier doesn't mean somebody knows it.
Aviation began. And Aska's family, who lost their son and husband and brother, knew that. And so they have gone on to file several lawsuits against Atlas Air and Amazon for gross negligence.
As they should.
Specifically for putting this man in the cockpit despite his obvious inability to fly an airplane. So why was he flying an airplane?
I always say, do you want the best heart surgeon or a black heart surgeon? They may not be the same person. Woof, woof, that's the sound of the terrain. Spooksky coming in with the 39, 37. Let me annotate that one real quick. La 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 da 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 da.
Well, in his specific case, we do not have a definitive answer, but it seems...
Was she naked? No, she was not naked. She had old-timey undies on.
Seems pretty obvious. Airlines like Atlas Air, in fact, all the airlines, are doing their best to hire and retrain pilots on the basis of irrelevant criteria like their appearance. And your appearance...
Let your dog ride shotgun. Make your wife sit in back. Be a man.
Be a man. You guys like that one? That's good. Let me pull this one up here. This is how hold my beer leads to safety briefs. Don't hold my beer with aviation. I was a QA inspector in aviation life support systems and will abuse safe. Yeah, no, that is one thing you have to do. Safety regulations, albeit sometimes stringent and annoying, are kind of necessary, especially when it comes to giant fucking flying planes.
Like their appearance. And your appearance, to restate, has nothing to do with your ability to fly an airplane or perform hard.
Spirit is training pilots in knife fighting. Look, they have to take kendo, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, all this stuff. They have a whole different manual at Spirit.
Surgery or do anything. It's immaterial. But on their websites, both Amazon and Atlas Air explained that, quote, diversity is paramount in everything they do.
It's not. It shouldn't be. You should keep the same standards and push for people to be better instead of lowering standards. I can't read that out, Valine.
Here's from the Atlas Air website, quote, we leverage diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI, as a business strategy and driver of innovation. We are guided by DEI.
Spirit used to be called Con Air. I need a bell.
DEI philosophy. Oh, yes, well, apparently you are. And look at the results. Amazon, of course, says the same thing. This is not an outlier. This is not just happening at Atlas Air. This is happening at every major carrier in the United States. Safety concerns ignored in favor of something called equity. Hiring by a...
I think holding the standards up and pushing and expecting people to be better seems like the better way of doing it than lowering standards, especially when it comes to fucking airplanes, surgeons, police especially. Holy shit. Have we talk about cops every week on the AAA and how they are doing nothing but fucking up. Imagine if we still had high standards for them. Jesus Christ.
Appearance, not by ability. This is insane. And in this case, it killed 3 people. United Airlines has promised that 50% of their new trainees will be, quote, women and minorities. Right. Not the best pilots, but people who look a certain way. Well, as we told you, in December...
There we go. Safety stabbings are on the table. That's better.
A United Boeing 777 bound for San Francisco came within seconds of hitting the ocean. It just dropped out of the sky. And the pilots, who apparently were not properly trained or hired for the wrong reasons on the basis of irrelevant criteria, were sent back to training. Thankfully, the hundreds of people on that plane survived. But this kind of thing is happening across the industry.
As a woman, I don't want a woman pilot. I don't care about a black pilot. I don't care about a woman pilot. I just want a good pilot.
Talk to anyone who works there. Talk to any working pilot right now. The airlines are in a mad scramble to meet equity targets, meaning they are pushing safety aside in favor of ideology.
Since we started late because I have the poops, we're gonna do one more.
Good evening.
Oh no, wait, this is a long one. Is it here? We'll do this one.
Here is a breath of hilarity, really one of our favorites.
We'll do this one, then I got to end it. But if all goes according to plan, I should be back here Thursday.
Stories of all time. Tanzanian fashion designer based in...
This story is hilarious. I think someone just burped off camera on Tucker.
A breath of hilarity, really one of our favorite stories of all time. Tanzanian fashion designer based in Houston called Asa Koshman says she lost her luggage at the baggage claim of DCA, Washington Reagan National, back in 2018. A couple of days ago, she was watching Fox.
I love this story, dude. This is one of my favorite stories, I think, of the year. This is so good. This guy's such a weirdo.
Fox News, and she saw the coverage of Sam Brinton. That would be Joe Biden's non-binary nuclear waste disposal expert who had this weird fetish involving stealing women's clothes from airport carousels.
Which I don't know how that's not a crime that this person's actually in jail for.
And then it hit Compson. Sam Brinton was photographed wearing her clothes, and they're very distinctive clothes. You're seeing the side-by-side in your screen right now. Now, we're in touch with her. She's in Tanzania right now, but when she gets back, she promises to come on this show and discuss what it's like to have your fashion creation.
I think it's a federal crime. Apparently not, because Sam Brinton's done it for like 5 years and is not in trouble for it.
Stolen by Joe Biden's nuclear waste, non-binary airport fetishist. But in the meantime, we're joined by Chadwick Moore of The Spectator to assess this ongoing.
Okay, I'm putting this out with like 3 minutes left. We are 40% to goal. If we get the 250, we could treat John Galt, his first time here, to a horsecock, but we got to get back to 250.
Story, which really is, Chadwick, you got to admit, the greatest story ever. Now, I just have to ask, you've been following this since the beginning. You first saw this guy, Sam Brinton. Was your first thought...
Rollover. I'm from here on out, I'm thinking rollovers are going to be Thursdays. Because I need to go to bed an hour earlier.
I bet this guy never steals women's underwear off airport carousels.
Imagine you're just like fake gamer cat and you lose your luggage and then you look and you see Sam Brinton wearing your clothing that you had. And chances are he's wearing your panties. But they're not like your sexy panties. It's like your granny panties, and you know he's just wearing them. It's fucking weird.
Well, yeah, you have to pardon my glee, because I don't think anyone thought this story could possibly get any better. And now, you know, two words that have to apply to him that I would mean sincerely in this case would be stunning and real.
Matt Damon rocking your thong. Oh my God.
Really, really brave. It's not like he's parading around in a Gap hoodie. I mean, they're very distinctive, you know, quite
So that's where the missing comma package went.
Lovely clothing that he...
Or, yeah, that's even worse, Frank Cap. It's the thong. He's wearing the thong.
He was wearing, and that poor designer having her creations defiled by the radioactive klepto queen in the energy department.
Radioactive... I can't even say it without coughing, dying. Radioactive klepto queen. How fucking hilarious.
I really feel for her. That must be awful. But I'm a little disappointed in myself and in fellow journalists that none of us took a closer look at his clothing and asked what exactly he was wearing, because we should have been tipped off the minute we saw some of these outfits that looked like he raided a village in Africa or something. Maybe we would have started getting more answers then.
That was not off the rack, and that should have been the first tip-off that he had a Tanzanian designer he was stealing from. And I agree with you. We fell down on the job. Chadwick Moore, great to see you tonight. Thank you.
Radioactive klepto queen. Hey, just another guy, you want to start a band? All right, guys, that's it for today. We started a little bit late because I had the poops. But we will be back here. Or no, we'll be on Twitch Thursday to wrap it up. I'm sure we have a few more to go. And tomorrow, AAA meeting on Polydub's channel at 5:30 EST. So go check that out, guys. Thank you for coming and hanging out. Thank you for an incredible show, guys. Have a lovely evening, and I will see you all tomorrow on Polly's channel. Good night, everybody.